So, guys, this is my review for Fena Pirate Princess Episode 3, and with that, let's jump right into this review of Episode 3. Let's get it. So, at the very beginning of Episode 3, we got a chance to see Sanada again. He was like standing, I guess, looking out, and then they showed like this pigeon flying, this white pigeon flying. It was a carrier pigeon, and it actually went to this boat. Now, it showed the guy there in the blue. They didn't haven't given him a name yet. I don't remember. But he's basically talking to Markiev here. He's basically demanding him to get Fena back. Now, last week's episode, in episode 2, with his introduction, in episode 2, that well, basically both their characters, that he stopped, the guy in the blue stopped Markiev from hurting Angie by throwing that bottle at her, which I personally was just like, yo, you're my homie for doing that. You're officially on my top list for one of the favorite characters in the Fena Pirate Princess anime already. Just 2 episodes into this already, right? But now that I watched episode 3 and seeing that he's actually tied to like the bad guy portion of this anime, even though he's a bad guy, I still have much respect for him for protecting and acknowledging that no harm should come to any woman during with him while him being around. Now, the young lady there laying on the bed, she's wearing this this earring, which I'm going to show right now. So this is the young lady, close up of her. She's wearing that green earring there. They showed her smile at the very beginning of episode 1. If you go back and look at it, she smiles and she actually was wearing that same earring. I didn't notice that this was her until this point. Like I was like, oh, that's her from episode 1. But we got a chance to see what she fully looks like in the image prior to this one here with the close-up of her. So she has a tie-in with the guy in the blue who's basically leading the charge to get Fena back in his presence. And so they show some other stuff too in the beginning of the episode that we'll be talking about moving forward in a little bit. And so the crew, with Fena, they're traveling on the boat. They're heading in a specific direction. Going towards Edina, trying to find out information about that stone, and they're basically making plans to do stuff next during their journey. Now, Fena does in this portion of the episode, because at the same time, like Yukimaru isn't here. Shitan, he basically says that Yukimaru's probably off doing what he does best in this moment, and that basically Yukimaru is making like a list of who's gonna be going offshore to do shopping and stuff like that wherever they're headed. And I forgot to mention that the title of the episode is named Bar-Baral, and that's actually the place that they're heading to. It's a free city. It's a free city called Bar-Baral. They're gonna go there, and Yukimaru make this list. And from what I could tell from what he makes this list constantly, and it seems to me like he's always the one to be left behind to tend to the ship and clean it and stuff like that. So once he brings his list in, he once again is the only person to get left behind to stay watch over the ship while the crew goes off and travels through the town or city that they're gonna be on. So again, Bar-Baral is gonna be the place where they're heading to next. And with that, Fena basically talks to the crew about getting new clothing, because all she has is the dress that she was wearing, what she was supposed to get married with, wearing to Markiev at that moment in episode 1. But also too, we also find out that Yukimaru bops Kareen over the head too, the young lady standing next to Fena. So they basically feel like he does it too. Specifically, he only bops pretty women over the top of the head, and nobody else, because it doesn't seem like he does that to the guys or anything like that. So I just found that to be really, really funny. But once they get to Bar-Baral, that's when things start to get very, very interesting moving forward in episode 3. So, welcome to Bar-Baral. This is what Bar-Baral looks like from the outside. It's the free city. They end up arriving here. I also forgot to mention that the boat that they're riding in is like a submarine, like a mini submarine. So when they're traveling, they're underwater. So whenever it's time for them to come up, they'll pretty much come up from under the water and then keep going. So, but they arrive at Bar-Baral, and then, like I said, guys, once they get here, things start to get really interesting and even starts to pick up moving forward here in episode 3. What ends up happening here in episode 3, they dock, they are basically like sightseeing a little bit. The crew, they split up. Most of the other crew, they're off looking for various places to search for stuff. But Fena and Inju and Kaida, the twins here, they are together, and they end up coming across, I want to say, like, this is an antique store, and this older guy here, he's the owner. She, like, something like drew Fena here as they were traveling through by these stores. She just like stopped, she looked in the doorway, and she just came in here, and she picked up this what looks like the stone that Sonata gave her in last week's episode, in episode 2. Looks like the same thing, but it's a little bit damaged, and it has a price tag on it. I believe it said 10,000 yen. I could be wrong, could be a little bit more. But they don't have that type of money to be able to purchase it, because Fena basically was asking the store owner, could you tell us about this stone here? And he's like, well, I'll tell you if you buy it. He's one of those type of store owners where it's like, well, I'm not going to give you free information. Information from me is going to cost you. You have to buy something. So what ends up happening is, I believe it's Inju's the one who pulls out this lighter, and the store owner gets so excited because he's never seen something like that, and he basically says, like, I'll give you this lighter, and we'll trade it if you give us that stone thing here. So he was kind of a bit taken aback by it, but eventually he gives it up to them, and now they try to figure out what to do, and try to see if it's comparable to the stone that they have. But once they get out the store, then things start to pick up even more, because they start traveling a little bit further, and then stuff starts to really pick up here in episode 3. Now, during the travels, they end up running into Markiev and the people that are basically, they're all hired to go after Fena. Now, one of the things I wanted to mention is that carrier pigeon that I talked about earlier in this review video, is that it went to the boat that Markiev and that they're basically his leader, the person, the guy in the blue, no name guy, who again is one of my favorite characters already, because he's a protector of women. But the carrier pigeon arrives on their boat. It basically, from what I can tell per this moment, basically states that somebody sent information to them to tell them where Fena and crew were headed, that they were actually heading to Bar-Baral. So it kind of makes me think that somebody back on within Sonata's camp, maybe even Sonata himself, I don't know for sure, but to me it just seems like somebody was there on the island. They're like a plant or something, a spy or something, and they sent word about where they were headed. That's the only thing I can think of, unless somebody was able to follow them. But I'm just gonna guess and say there's a spy amongst the good guy side of Sonata's crew, and they sent word to them to tell them that Fena was heading here. And this is where we get to the introduction to some of these other characters with Markiev, who actually end up, these women here, they end up fighting the twins, which is really fun battle, by the way. I really enjoyed their fight. But eventually Yukimaru gets involved, and then it gets even more interesting moving forward. Now, once part of the crew gets back, Yukimaru basically is asking about where the twins are, where Fena is, and then he kind of feels like that's a bad thing, that they're off together by themselves, that they didn't come back. He ends up running off because, again, in that moment, in the image prior, they ended up, those couple of women and them, they started to attack the twins and try to get after Fena, but Yukimura goes off and he comes through in the clutch to be able to save Fena. But while he's running away, because the one young lady, she has a gun, she shoots at them when they're running away, and she actually hits Yukimura in his right arm. He's bleeding. He's basically calling it a flesh wound, but Fena's like really worried, so she ends up patching him up a little bit later once they get back to the boat. But again, I was a bit worried for Yukimura for sure, just because he did get hit, because again, you didn't know where specifically he got hit, how much damage, and with how medical stuff worked in this type of a time period, that it's definitely going to take a good while for his arm to fully heal and stuff like that. So he's only one of the few characters that definitely did get hurt during that fight and stuff like that. So, but one of the other things is that the one of the twins ended up fighting against one of the other young ladies, and he basically said that I can't fight you because you're too beautiful. I really like that he said that to her. That was just funny to me. But with that, once they're back safely on the boat, they end up traveling to continue their journey. But then we see something interesting at the very end of episode 3 in the next scene to come. Now it's up to you if you want to do this. You can press F in the chat for Markiev. They pretty much felt like he was useless in trying to get Fena back at Bar-Baral. He failed, and they basically wrapped this chain ball around him, and they're basically saying that his services are no longer needed. Good luck to you and all of your endeavors, young man, which is the bottom of the sea. And they toss him into the water to basically just call it a work shift there, or career, sir. But that's pretty much what happens to him. But then we find something else interesting. Again, like I said, here at the end of episode 3. Forgot to mention this earlier in the video. O'Malley is the young lady's name that was part of the bad guy side of things. Young lady who was lying on the bed, who has that green earring. But the guy's name, his name is Abel. I believe that's his name, because she mentions his name here in the scene. He's actually holding this heart with this chain on it, and he's calling out to Fena a little bit. He says, "Fena, do you realize who you are?" Now Abel and Amelia are actually, Amalia is actually, they're actually in this room. They're actually basically getting ready to have sex. But she basically saying like, the night is still young. We still have plenty to do. It's basically continuing what they're doing. But again, like I said, he's holding this heart, this necklace heart thing, and he calls out to Fena and say, "Fena, do you realize who you are?" And then pretty much the episode ends from there. So interesting stuff. I really did enjoy this episode, guys. This episode was really, really fun. I really did enjoy the fight scenes too from the twins. They definitely did their thing. It was just the animation and stuff was just really, 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 really great. So I just really enjoyed episode 3. But with that, guys, I'm getting ready to go watch episode 4 next and then do my review for that. So be on the lookout for that review to come. But with that, guys, let me know your thoughts. What did y'all think of episode 3 when you first sat down to watch it for the first time? Let's talk about some things. But other than that, I will talk to y'all next time with more Fena Pirate Princess. Peace, guys.